Hi, this is another edition of The Spectre. This is D.S. Yoxheimer, and I'm doing a kind of a quasi-review of the movie Driven, which is about automobile maverick, tycoon, whatever the hell you want to call him, who independently was one of the first guys to basically go out and independently manufacture his own automobile, since Preston Tucker did in 1948. So, and most people are familiar with the DeLorean. It was featured in the Back to the Future films, and just a few years after the company went under. Not at the time that movie came out, not a lot of people knew about the story behind the car. It wasn't a very common car on the roads in the United States, but there were a few people growing up in my town who had DeLoreans, and I did get a chance to see them up close when I was a kid, when I was around 9 or 10 years old, which is pretty cool. And when you saw them back then, it was like, holy fuck, it's like a spaceship. It's just amazing. They've been pretty much my favorite car ever since. And for a while now, I have been wanting, like, when are they going to make a movie about, John DeLorean, the guy who created the car and everything. And they did, just over the summer, finally came out. It's a little, the movie I thought was a little bit of on a smaller scale than I thought they would do, but I liked it. It had people I liked, and it had Jason Sudeikis, who played the FBI informant, James Hoffman, who is a real person, who is now presumably still in witness protection, or probably dead by some kind of drug cartel in South America or Colombia, who knows. But the movie, basically, the premise of the movie and the backdrop of the movie is, this is John DeLorean's neighbor. He's already an FBI informant, because at the beginning of the movie, he gets caught with his family trying to smuggle drugs from South America under the guise of going down there as Christian missionaries. And they take a pit stop in Orlando or whatever. And it's pretty funny seeing stuff like that. So the FBI guy's like, he's just intimidating him and stuff like that and throwing chairs around, and he convinces him to be an informant for the FBI to bust his connection, who's played by the actor who was in The Walking Dead, the guy, Abraham, the guy with the red hair. He plays that guy. How real this guy really is, I don't know. James Hoffman is a real person, but Jason Sudeikis doesn't look like him. And I was going to look for an actual picture of James Hoffman, but I couldn't find one. So online, they show the picture of him actually at the end of the movie, when they show like the real actor and the person that portrayed them, who they were portraying. So and Judy Greer plays Jason Sudeikis' wife, and they're living next door or across the street from John DeLorean in this kind of trendy place in California, in these big fancy kind of ranch houses or whatever. And this is one of John DeLorean's homes, and he was renting this place, and the FBI was paying him to rent this house, James Hoffman. And at one point, this is the big thing that's always been known about the whole DeLorean story. John DeLorean's company that winds up being, basically winds up being built in Ireland, where there's a need for jobs and everything, but they're not very well trained in building cars there. They don't build cars in Ireland. So, and they had a lot of problems, of course, with the IRA at the time. It was a kind of a volatile place to start a car company. And he was, with the early bugs the cars had and things like that, they, with the first wave of cars that came to the United States and, other parts of the world, people began to lose interest in the DeLorean. And there were celebrities that invested money, like Johnny Carson, for instance, and Sammy Davis Jr., to name a few, who the cars that they had driven were defective, and they had, voiced this and said, they're a piece of shit. So, anyway, the bad publicity was not helping him, but John DeLorean, kind of being desperate, he the thing is, the movie sort of implies like he did go to James Hoffman because he knew that he was actually, even though he was someone who chartered his business was chartering his plane or planes, was like a cover for drug smuggling, out of Asia and South America and Colombia and all that stuff. So, he's John DeLorean's not stupid, well, at least too stupid enough to get walk into an FBI sting, but he figured, I'm gonna basically, ask, see if, try to hook up with this guy's connection and have a meeting and stuff like that. So the FBI uses Sudeikis' character to set this meeting up with his drug dealer, his big drug connection, to set John DeLorean up for some reason. And this is basically what leads to what eventually happens, of course. But anyway, John DeLorean's company, the DeLorean Motor Company, which was established in 1977, after they built a prototype and promoted it and did all that stuff, it really didn't start building cars until 1981 and went out of business in 1983. And John DeLorean went about hiring more people and building more cars in order to get more money from the British government. And this was at the time when Margaret Thatcher was coming into power, and she was sort of like kind of the parallel to Ronald Reagan, not very pro labor, if you know what I mean, as far as the interest of trying to create jobs and stuff like that and invest, and hope down the line money will be made. So the company went into receivership, of course, after I'm getting ahead of myself with that, but before that, he gets busted in a sting. He goes to a hotel room with James Hoffman, and they just basically they have sit down with these people. There's a famous video. They actually feature it in The People versus Larry Flint. Larry Flint, some reason, has the DeLorean tape. That's how he talked, and he would tell the judge. When the judge asked him what the source of the DeLorean tape was, he said, "Oh, it's the samurai," and then the judge gets pissed off. So, anyway, that's a little tie-in to that movie. So, but anyway, so he gets, John DeLorean gets busted, and he's got to go to court and beat this whole thing. And James Hoffman's the key witness. He's the informant. And basically, all he has to do is say that John DeLorean wanted to. That he didn't know that it was a setup. Basically, that's what he was saying. And I think it was James Hoffman said, did he know it was a sting? Can't quite remember what the fuck that scene was. Like, basically, entrapment is, okay, this is getting back to, I am not a lawyer. Entrapment is if you ask somebody that if they're a cop and they don't say they're a cop, and then whatever they're doing to whatever they're trying to bust you with, then that's entrapment. Okay, so basically, they were trying to prove, did John DeLorean know that this was a setup, and that they were setting him up? And it kind of doesn't really make any sense to me. I mean, why are you going into something that you know is a setup? You wouldn't do that. So it was a legal loophole, basically, and supposedly the movie implies that James Hoffman said that that he just basically either, he knew that it was a setup and he went, or no, did he know that it was a setup and he went in, or he didn't know it was a setup? What it is, did, now I can correct myself. Did John DeLorean come to him about selling cocaine, or did he go to him? James Hoffman lure him in. You know, basically that's what he had to say in court. He basically said that he lured John DeLorean into the sting. That's what I was trying to say. I'm sorry that took so long to fucking explain. It's the middle of the afternoon. Usually I do these videos at 3 in the morning, and it's the middle of the afternoon, and I'm like, you know, trying to get my shit straight. But basically, yeah, he didn't, James Hoffman said in court that he lured him in versus John DeLorean went to him. And the movie kind of implies that John DeLorean went to him to sell, because he knew what he was about, to save his company, to traffic cocaine. So that was basically what went down. And of course, in real life, John DeLorean was acquitted. He never made another car, and he died like bankrupt in 2005 at the age of 80. So, and there were a lot of, I mean, John DeLorean was a pretty shady dude. Overall, I mean, he wasn't doing things the right way. He made a cool car. I mean, it's one of those things, you either, you know, you love that car, or you think it's just, you know, just some fucking kooky looking piece of shit. They didn't go very fast. Now I'm just talk about the car a little bit, just for a moment. The DeLoreans topped out at between 120 to 130 miles an hour. Little known trivia, and they made the Back to the Future movies. They actually swapped out the engines with Porsche engines, because after they put on all of the, you know, the coils and all the props to make the car look like a time machine, it weighed down the car so much, and they couldn't get it up, you know, it wouldn't go very fast when they were doing a lot of the stunt scenes, driving scenes. So, it has a little, it's called a PVR engine, Peugeot, Renault, Volvo V6 engine. I mean, it's gets you where you're going. The selling point of the car is now it's just an unusual, cool looking car that, that has, you know, a fanatical following throughout the world. They have, like DeLorean sort of conventions and stuff like that John DeLorean actually used to go to. You know, he'd sign people's cars and stuff. He did propose building another car. There was actually it was actually in the newspaper when I was a kid. I have like a little clipping of that right here. So yeah, that didn't go anywhere. I'm not sure exactly what the time frame that might have been, early 90s, late 80s or something like that. It was kind of similar to, you know, it was a more beefed up, cooler version of the old DeLorean and stuff like that. It had, you know, like spoilers. It was a little more radically designed, but basically looked, you know, was still, had the trademark look of the original car. But the car is still cool to this day. I mean, I was jogging, I think, like a year or two ago downtown, and I just stopped dead, and I saw one parked, you know, and it's just such a remarkable, you know, vehicle. It looks like a spaceship. It's stainless steel, just the, you know, I mean, everything about it. It's unusual. But every car, it doesn't even matter if there's a Porsche here or, you know, a Mercedes there, or, you know, that one sticks out. The DeLorean always just sticks out, you know. But it's rarer and rarer to see one, you know, actually out and about. You know, I mean, people they're either you know, in storage or whatever. You know, I mean, you're talking about a car that's well over 30 years old now, and they made about 9,000 of them, and they have a company in Texas that actually builds new ones from parts that were never used for manufacture, because there were a lot of parts that were made that were never never wound up building cars with, and they were bought out at some point, and this company, the Lorean Motor Company in Texas, they basically own the rights to the logo and all of that, and they restore old DeLoreans, and they build new ones. I mean, there's an estimated 6,000 or 7,000 of them still, you know, in existence. So I mean, you could probably find one if you've got $30,000 burned a hole in your pocket. But yeah, that's basically the story of it and all of that. I mean, the movie Driven, like, was it was a decent flick. It's all right. It's pretty funny. Jason Sudeikis is funny in it. Lee Pace plays John DeLorean. He looks like him quite a bit, and I think it's you know, worth seeing. I saw it on Amazon basically. I also saw The Framing of John DeLorean, which was a documentary slash biopic, and Alec Baldwin played John DeLorean. That's actually pretty interesting too. I mean, if you are interested in the subject, or basically a fan of DeLoreans, the car. But of course, but I don't know if I'm ever going to get to own one. Not on my salary. You know, I just don't make enough money. I don't make any money doing this freaking YouTube channel or anything like that. This is just for fun and everything. And I thought about using Patreon and stuff like that. Some friends like, yeah, you do that YouTube channel and stuff, and you make all those videos, and we aren't using Patreon. You're not monetized or anything. So I just sort of like came up with a little bit of an alternative revenue stream. It's a little controversial, but basically I'm just going to be selling high-grade cocaine, and you know, to any of my viewers and stuff like that. This is seriously good shit, and I think it's a good idea, and it's you know, it's freeze, Cupid doll. This is Lieutenant Deuce Rennick. Drop the blow. No, Lieutenant Deuce Rennick. No, dude, I was freaking set up, man. It's a setup, man. Totally. Don't be crying to me, boy. You save it for your mama.